Hi, I'm Jade Lang, and I'll be talking about emergency management and culture. In emergency management, the number one goal above all others is to save lives. Because of this, most people associate emergency management with simple objectives, like providing people with adequate water, food, and shelter in the event of a disaster. If an agency is able to do this, they're seen as successfully managing the disaster. However, no two people are alike. In particular, different groups and subsets of society have different needs and therefore require different approaches to emergency management. Merriam-Webster defines culture as the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. This can mean anything from religious observances, typical living arrangements, community organization, or even feelings towards the government and emergency managers. Culture is more than just race or ethnicity. Culture is multifaceted for many people, and in a diverse country like the United States, it can be especially hard to identify and define. Some components of culture include language and communication style, family and relationships, gender and sexual identity, race and ethnicity, religion and spirituality, class and socioeconomic status, health beliefs, immigration status, and perception of political power. The term cultural competence is defined by the Office of Minority Health in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as the understanding of the cultural and linguistic characteristics within the target community and the subsequent focus on congruent behaviors, attitudes, and policies. First and foremost, it's important for emergency managers to educate themselves and to be aware of the cultural and linguistic demographics in their communities in order to identify vulnerabilities in their plans and policies. Emergency managers' first and foremost goals are to save lives, including the most vulnerable and less easy to reach ones in society. For example, when making evacuation plans, it's important to be cognizant of those without access to transportation plans or communities with a history of staying at home during disasters and paying special attention to their needs. In another example, when providing food to a community with a large Jewish or Muslim population, emergency managers should keep in mind the dietary restrictions that come with these religions. In one last example, if serving a community with a large immigrant population, it would be super important for an emergency management organization to include responders that are bilingual and have some sort of community connection. This is one reason why diversity is so important in emergency management and why agencies should do their best to hire people that can relate to all different subsets of society. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, there are 5 elements of cultural competency within disaster preparedness. First, awareness and acceptance of difference, meaning responders should recognize that they will often be different from survivors. Second, awareness of one's own cultural values. It's important to recognize and examine the way you're used to doing things in order to identify certain biases or stereotypes you may have towards different ways of life. Third, understanding and managing the dynamics of difference, meaning that you can recognize various ways cultures express and interpret information. Fourth, development of cultural knowledge. In context of the health department, they say this refers to cultivating a working knowledge of different health and illness-related beliefs, customs, and treatments of cultural groups in your local area. In emergency management, however, this can refer to a number of things. Basically, one should be aware of beliefs and customs that can impact the way cultures view disasters in all stages, including response and recovery. Lastly, the ability to adapt activities to fit different cultural contexts. Emergency managers should have the ability to adapt this cultural knowledge to create comprehensive plans that are inclusive, mindful of diversity, and aware of vulnerable communities.